One, two. Testing, one, two. Coming at. Real quick. Judge Joe Brown going up against our brother. You already know what it is, man. Brother Jabari Osaze. I hope y'all got tickets go up, man. You already know it's going up. It's going up. The day is going up. Please get your ticket. Don't wait till the last minute, man. You know what I mean? Yeah. Sa.neter.
This is for my sisters trapped in religion. Wake up and free the babies. Sa.neter speak the truth, he's on a mission. Yeah. The house of consciousness, the final call. Will your Bible thumpers wake up or just fall? The house of consciousness, the final call. Stop believing in fairy tales, especially Paul. I used to use the Bible like a lantern in the night, trying to wake up my sisters to the light. Yeah. The house is closing in and it's a total mess. You ignore my wisdom, the ultimate test. Step inside the HOKs, the toughest terrain where the truth hits hard. The cut spring pain, I try to wake you with the word in my hand, to get you to the truth, to help you understand. I gave you the scriptures, chapters and verse. I gave you the keys to break the curse. I gave you Torah to unlock with keys. Break the mental chains and be the house of consciousness, the final call. Will your Bible thumpers wake up or just fall? The house of consciousness, the final call. Stop believing in fairy tales, especially Paul. Wake the sisters up with the fire in their soul, taking back their story, gaining full control. Get your mind right, leave the Bible behind. The Bible is not your history, your soul will be hard to find. Welcome to the HOK, where the truth resides. No more hiding in the pews where the die. We speak against the Bible just to wake the inner sight. Come inside the HOK doors, we bring the light. The house of consciousness. Will your Bible thumpers wake up or just fall? Stop believing in fairy tales, especially Paul. Sa.neter, don't stop, wake the sisters up. Don't stop, wake the sister up. I won't stop. Sa.neter, don't stop, wake the sisters up. Don't stop, wake the sister up. I won't stop.
The infamous, yeah, house of consciousness. Salute the architect, brother Sa.neter. If knowledge got a home, you know where it's at. Let's go! Let's go.
King of consciousness.
Put respect on the name, built the platform platform for the culture.
Change the whole game.
Different views, different paths.
Everybody got a lane.
When it's time to build the people,
sa.neter leads the way. King of consciousness.
we appreciate the work, gave a voice to the unheard.
Put the teachings first.
From the elders to the youth,
Helping all of us learn.
House of Consciousness forever.
Watch the wisdom return.
Before the algorithms, before the trends and hype, he was putting scholars on and bringing truth to light. Opened up the microphone, let the people speak. 7 days a week, dropping jewels for the streets. He gave a host of worldwide fans with diverse minds, from Professor Small to Brother Easy Band. Zion Lex on the screen, bringing knowledge and facts. Brother Reggie in the building, always ready to rap. Bunk West brought scientific concepts with a different perspective, making viewers think deeper, asking critical questions. Pastor Bennett with the scriptures, bringing faith to the table. Captain Taz debating, always willing and able. Nat Paul teaching lessons, giving people direction. Shaka bringing knowledge and aggression. But the Jabari dropping African history, building a stronger connection. The list goes on,
That's a fact.
no exaggeration,
He helped introduce great minds.
to an entire generation.
King of consciousness.
Put respect on the name.
Built the platform for the culture. Changed the whole game.
Different views, different paths.
Everybody got a lane.
When it's time to build the people,
sa.neter lead the way. King of consciousness.
we appreciate the work.
Gave a voice to the unheard.
Put the teachers first. From the elders to the youth,
Helping all of us learn.
House of Consciousness forever.
Watch the wisdom return.
Some got big followings, some became a star, some were neighborhood legends, some were known from afar, some were elders with wisdom that the youth never knew. Without this platform, many names would have slipped through. He gave space to the Christians, gave space to the Comedics, Hebrew Israelites, atheists and academics, Pan-African voices, revolutionaries too. Different ideologies, but everybody came through. That's the beauty of the mission, that's the reason it survived. You ain't gotta agree to have a seat and go live. Economic liberation, mental freedom in the air, teaching self-determination, putting black power everywhere.
Some came for the debates. Some came for the history. Some came for the culture. Some came for the mystery.
But everybody learned something,
Hey,
everybody got a chance.
hi.
House of Consciousness.
Help the people lead faith.
Yeah, what? Whether conscious or religious, whether skeptic or believer, whether scholar or beginner, whether teacher or achiever, he gave room for the dialogue, room for growth and reflection, room for disagreement without destroying our connection. That's rare today in a world full of division. Everybody wants an echo if you tackle the real mission. So salute the contribution, salute the decades invested, building the greatest archive the community's ever been blessed with. Many channels came later,
Hey,
many platforms took notes.
hey. But the house of consciousness.
Keeps the movement afloat.
King of consciousness.
Put respect on the name.
Built a platform for the culture. Changed the whole game.
Different views, different paths.
Everybody got a lane.
When it's time to build the people,
sa.neter lead the way. King of consciousness.
we appreciate the work.
Gave a voice to the unheard.
Put the teachers first. From the elders to the youth,
He helped all of us learn.
House of Consciousness forever.
Let the wisdom return.
House of Consciousness. A place where ideas meet. A place where voices grow. Salute, brother. From your brother, the infamous
DMG.
Let's go.
Honorable Judge Joe Brown in the building. And of course, we got the champion Jabari Osaze, the Floyd Mayweather, and in the building. And we're going to have a good time right here. We already know the judge is nothing to play with when it comes to this presidential debate thing coming up. And so Jabari got a little smirk on his face. I see he's like ready for this. And so without any further ado, I want to introduce to you, Brother Judge Joe Brown. He's sitting there nonchalant like, yo, whatever, just bring it. What you got? And Brother Jabari, the champion. So let's get
This is a Frank Gary copyright. September the 8th, Judge Joe Brown versus Jabari Osaze.
Brother Jabari, I'm gonna let you open up first, Jabari, so we can see where you're going. You got 3 minutes. Let me put up the clock so we can see it. You got 3 minutes in your opening. So you know you're going up against the judge. He knows the opening, he knows all of this stuff. So you got 3 minutes in your opening round to state your case and let the people know what are you saying here. Jabari, it is on you, my brother. 3 minutes is up right here. Let's go. Time will start when you start speaking.
First, let me say peace to the family. I'm so honored, as I always am, to speak to the sa.neter TV Studios Black News 102 family. I'm here to talk about an important topic. We are perhaps, as people of African descent in the United States, facing one of the most important decisions that we have to make as a community. We have an extremely important presidential election. We have two candidates that are vying for office, and I am honored and also dismayed to be debating Judge Joe Brown today. I thought that this debate would be good, not only because we could clarify for people of African descent, for Black people, how we should actually view the election and perhaps even who they might decide to vote for. But I'm debating this elder here today because he said some really strident things. He said things that I would term misogynistic. He'd said some things that I would say are based in really inappropriate commentary about one of the candidates, while he has also been extremely in favor of a candidate who has displayed openly misogynistic and racist views. And so I want you to know today, family, that I intend to hold Judge Joe Brown's feet to the fire. You know that I'm going to be respectful. You know that I'm going to honor Judge Joe Brown and not be disrespectful to him, but I am going to take the fight to him because I really do believe that some of the things that he said are beyond the pale. We have one candidate who is attempting to describe policy. We have one candidate who is attempting to describe what the future of the United States should look like. And we have another candidate who is spending all of their time engaging in complaints about personal grievance, engaging in attacks on people based on their gender, based on their race, based on their ethnicity. I truly believe that one candidate, and I am talking about Donald Trump, is beneath the position of the president of the United States. Yet Judge Joe Brown has clearly supported him and supported him with commentary that, as I said, is inappropriate, but also supported him with ideas that are not based in reality. I have heard Judge Joe Brown on several platforms spout things that are based in innuendo and rumor. Well, I want to explain to Judge Joe Brown and to the entire audience that this is the sa.neter TV studio community, and we say source up or shut up. I'm really going to look forward to seeing him source up and defend his claims. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Brother Jabari. And now, damn, what is this? And now we got Judge Joe Brown. You got 3 minutes, Judge Joe Brown, in your opening round. Time will start. This is a Frank Gary copyright. September the 8th, Judge Joe Brown versus Jabari Osaze. All right, Judge, time will start when you start speaking. We can't hear you, Judge. We can't hear you. We can't hear you. Okay, you might have to go out and come back in. That's how usually these things work sometime. You're going to have to go out and come back in, Judge. No. All right.
Senator, we're not able to see the comments from folks.
Yeah. Oh, no,
You
no,
see it?
no, no. No,
Okay.
because it's on private. All right, family, just bear with us. And everything is going smoothly right now. We just got to get Judge Joe Brown back in here to make sure he's good.
19th century to protect and spread slavery. They started the Civil War. They invented the Klan, Jim Crow, all the rest of it. They know their Negroes and how to work them, and they are doing that. So what we have here is a lot of Negroes who don't know how to be black, and they're not using free will to make their decisions, but they're conditioning as Negroes. Now, I'm looking at a fake person. You can start with her talking about listening to Tupac, smoking dope, and inhaling in the dorm. And when she was in the dorm, Tupac would have been 11 years old. So that's out the way. Washing greens in the bathtub where everybody washes their behind in the dorm. Your mama would have beat the crap out of you if it even thought about that. That's another lie. I was one of those girls on the bus. Well, let's see. I was a teacher in the LA City school system when that would have happened. And there were no segregated schools in California at the time, though there might have been some segregated neighborhoods. So she's lying about that. The truth is not in that woman. And what we are voting for is emasculation of the country. We're voting for the destruction of the traditional nuclear family if we vote for Harris and Waltz. Tampon Tim, they call him. And I call her the lying hyena because that wretched grin that indicates that she's got psychological problems that we always hear is obscene. Next thing, we're looking at Nazification of the country. We already have her talking about strength.
All right, Judge, your 3 minutes is up.
Program.
All right, your 3 minutes is up. So we're going to go into the first round. Jabari, you want to go first or the judge?
I'll defer to the judge if he'd like, because it's not like he wasn't finished.
All right, so Judge.
That doesn't make any difference. There's not much to finish. She's a fraud, so we'll get to it. Go ahead.
All right, Jabari.
You want to do your first round?
You get 10 minutes.
By the way, you should tell him the first round is 8 minutes, right?
Go ahead.
Yeah, the first round, I was going to make it 10 to make it, if you don't want to do the whole 8, we good. So
Well,
go ahead.
I had some more to add to it, but we don't have to go there. That was enough. I'll bring it out.
Okay. I want you to feed off of what Jabari is going to bring out. That way it'll give, you should have your pencil and paper ready in case you want to add on. But I know you're a veteran and you got it all.
Go ahead, just go ahead.
Go ahead, Brother Jabari. It's on you, Brother Jabari. Let's go.
Okay. Give me 1 sec.
I'm going to set your time to 8 minutes, Jabari. 8 minutes.
Right. Okay. Let me set my timer.
I don't see nothing sharing, Jabari.
Oh, yeah, because I'm going to share something. That's why.
That's right.
In fact, am going to share something, but be ready. I'm not going to share immediately.
Okay, so let's go. Let me know.
Are you ready? All right, let's go.
I will start when you're ready.
There's a reason why we tell people that they need to source up or shut up. There's a reason. And one of the major reasons why we do this is because we want to be able to see the quality of your fathoming. We want to see the rationale by which you arrived at your analysis. And when you start by saying, I don't need a reference, I am a reference, you can see that we're talking to someone who has actually believed things that are ethereal. What am I saying? Unfortunately, I think that Judge Joe Brown has gone for the okie doke. I think that he hears things and he believes them without actually vetting them. I have lots of examples of this, not just what you just heard. But let's just start with something he said in a moment. I want you to know in this round, I'm going to talk a little bit about Kamala Harris's heritage, because you're going to continue to hear Judge Joe Brown say that she's not Black. And if I have time, I will also talk a bit more about her policies. I also want to deal at some point in this conversation with her opponent, Donald Trump, so we can actually see that Judge Joe Brown is supporting a white supremacist. I don't know why, but Judge Joe Brown is supporting a white supremacist. Before we do all of that, I do want to show this, sa.neter. I'm going to present this for a second, and this will help us remember why it's important for us to source up. If you can share, sa.neter. This is from Reuters. This is a Reuters fact check. Kamala Harris did not say she listened to Snoop Dogg and Tupac while smoking marijuana in college. You just heard the judge say that. He is wrong. He is wrong. Maybe he should evaluate what he's heard and what he believes, because I think that if he continues to listen to rumor and innuendo and think that he has a cogent analysis, he is going to be led astray. Let's read a little bit. Social media users have been sharing a quote online claiming Kamala Harris said she listened to Snoop Dogg and Tupac while smoking marijuana in college. Users have questioned the statement, and the claim is being used to discredit Harris because both artists' first albums were released years after Harris had already graduated from college. Did you notice that he said she's a liar because of the time frame? But that's not what she said. The quote refers to an interview with Harris that Harris did in February 2019 with the Breakfast Club, so on, so on, and so on. By the way, they give you all the links you'd like to see here as well. In the interview, Charlamagne the God asked Harris if she smoked marijuana, and Harris responds that she has. Later in the interview, DJ Envy asked Harris what music she listens to. Before she has a chance to answer, Charlamagne the God interrupts by asking what music Harris listened to while smoking marijuana in college. Harris laughs but ignores Charlamagne the God's question, responds to the original query of what she listened to by saying Snoop Dogg, Tupac, and Cardi B. Clearly, she's not saying she listened to Cardi B in college, because Cardi B's been out about 5 years. Clearly, that's not what she's saying. But the folks that are putting that forward are trying to misrepresent what was said. And as they do that, I want you to know that what you have to do is listen to folks, evaluate what they're saying, and then chastise them for the inappropriate comments that they have made. So Judge Joe Brown, the older, needs to be chastised. He needs to be chastised for making those ridiculous comments. Let's really quickly show you a little bit on her ethnicity. Here's a bit on her ethnicity. Here are her parents. These are Kamala Harris's parents. You're even going to hear Judge Joe Brown. He says it many times. He said it a bit today, but I have the clips of him saying it elsewhere. Actually say that her mother is Indian. That is true. And her father is not Black. He's Jamaican. He's called him an Indo-Jamaican. I heard him say that in person. I actually confronted him about it in person. The conversation did not go well. You should know that when he says that, he's saying something that the right is saying without any sources, without any deeper understanding, without any merit. Thank you, sa.neter. Some people have even gone as far to say that this is her father. It is not. It is not. Here are images of Kamala Harris's father with his two daughters. Does that look like an Indo-European to you? Does that look like an Indo-Jamaican to you? I want you to be clear that these are his grandmothers, Miss Iris and Miss Chrissy. Do those look like Indians to you? In fact, you'll even see a young Kamala Harris sitting on the lap of who would be her great-grandmother. Can you at least even look at the hair of this woman here? I mean, are we not talking about the hair of a person of African descent? What are we talking about here? This is one of the most ridiculous things that I've ever had to contend with, but will have to. You'll even hear people talk about her birth certificate, that her father is listed as Jamaican, and they'll even say, well, her mother is listed as Caucasian. You can see here that on her birth certificate, she is listed as Jamaican. And her mother does say that she's Caucasian. But you'd have to be trying to misrepresent something to actually believe that. Let's try to have a better analysis of what we know about Kamala Harris. First of all, to understand what it means to be listed as Jamaican on the United States birth certificate, look at the United States Census and what they say the updates to OMB, the Office of Management and Budgets, race and ethnicity standards mean for the Census Bureau. This will give you a sense of why he was listed as Jamaican. What does Jamaican mean? Jamaican is a nationality, but when the United States lists Jamaican, what do they mean? Look here. Can you see this? This is why sourcing up is important, dear judge. This is Table 5 from 2024 SPD 15, and I want you to look at what they say for Black or African American. It says individuals with origins in any of the Black racial groups, including Black racial groups of Africa, including, for example, African American. What's the second one? Jamaican, Haitian, Nigerian, Ethiopian, and Somali. These are examples of what they mean when you see Jamaican on a birth certificate. They were in fact saying that she was Black. And really quickly, since I have very little time left, I want to also let you know that Reuters has also fact-checked this idea that her mother was Caucasian. And they say very clearly here, while speaking to a faculty scholar at Syracuse, Harris's mother, Shamaya Golapan, self-identified as Caucasian because Indians were classified as white and Caucasian in the United States in the 1960s. This is a classification issue.
This is a Frank Gary copyright. September the 8th, Judge Joe Brown versus Jabari Osaze.
You're muted, sir.
All right, Brother Jabari. I only play that when your time is up. Judge Joe Brown, your time starts when you start speaking, brother. You got 8 minutes.
You go to Reuters, and Reuters is a white supremacist agency. And I heard what she said because I was listening to it live when she went on. I think it was about 4.5, 5 years ago on the Breakfast Club talking to Charlemagne. I think that's what she said. Now, you want to get beyond that and deal with busing when she was, second grade, which at what time she would have been in Canada anyway. And also, I was a school teacher, so I do recall her claiming during the debate with Mr. Biden, who knows his Negroes, back when she was distinctive about she was on the bus. I was one of those children bused. And then I do recall listening to her blab on about washing greens in a dormitory bathroom, which is absolutely preposterous. So you rely on Reuters, an instrument of white supremacy, for your information and authentication. All right, where do you go with that? So what are you talking about when you say Jamaican? She's an Indo-Aryan. Her father is an Indo-Aryan, not an Aryan Jamaican or Indo-Jamaican. I happen to have met the man, sat at the same table with him. I believe it was on an occasion when both the Prime Minister and the Governor General of Jamaica invited me and my now ex-wife, and we sat at the table. I know blonde-haired, blue-eyed people who were born in Jamaica and are Jamaican. I know one in particular married to a friend of mine who's related to the English royals. Her parents were Caucasian. One was redhead, one was blonde, both of them born in Jamaica because it was part of the English Empire, part of the English Commonwealth. And you can go to Jamaica, particularly if you go to St. Elizabeth Parish and you get high, bright, and white, and you can hear somebody talk patois, and you turn around and somebody Chinese because they come from Hong Kong or Singapore, part of the British Commonwealth. You run into Pakistanis, you run into Indians because it's part of that. So you're just falling into the trap of complete ignorance. And if I had been prepared to show photographs like you're doing, I would have brought in with some of the famous Indian military units where everybody in there looks like they're a black man. I know Indians who are very dark. In fact, I remember a couple of lovely young ladies that used to work on my show. I thought they were black women until they laughed one day and said, "You think we're black? We're Indian." And a lot of people get suckered into falling for that. Where that birth certificate of live birth came from is interesting. My late mother-in-law used to be a paternity nurse in that very same hospital during the very same year that woman, Mrs. Imhoff, was born, Kamala Harris Imhoff. So she seems to be playing chameleon here. Let's see, she's adopted two Jewish children when they were in high school. That's okay, that's her business. She belongs to the Hillcrest Country Club, a famous, very wealthy, very white, very Jewish country club that has had very bad relations with black folk for the longest time in Los Angeles. Okay, you want a reference for that? Go look it up. But that's the fact of the thing. She is a fake. And being someone from Jamaica does not make you black. It only makes you somebody born in Jamaica. Now, that's just the way of it. If you look at that birth certificate and you examine it, it's interesting. It says point of origin for the mother, it says India. It says race, it says Caucasian. For the father, where he's from, it's blank, which should have had Jamaica in there. And where it says race, it says Jamaican, but you can have black, white, brown, red, yellow. And as many times as I've been to Jamaica, I've seen all of the above who were born in Jamaica and would be classified as Jamaican subjects. So that's a non-issue. Now, where do we go from there? It's like, what policy do we have? We have someone who has been in charge of the southern border, and they have completely failed, but they want to be commander in chief and in charge of securing the United States. They can't even secure a border, let alone the country. You talk about Nazism. I talk about Nazism. I'm looking at Strength Through Joy, a Nazi program implemented in 1933 and perfected in 34 that had the exact same name doing the exact same thing. Waltz, who is running for vice president, says over and over again, free speech should not be absolute. It should be restricted so there's no misinformation. Kamala Imhoff says she's going to set up first thing a commission to fight misinformation. That sounds like exactly what the Nazis said with the exact same words in 1934. And I'm sorry, a well-educated person should have learned that way, way back. I heard it in the 5th, 6th grade in elementary school, and again in high school, and again in college, and again in law school, and over the years reading it. Now, the next thing, 1934, the Nazis set out a program to disarm the public, and she's saying the first thing she's going to do is sign an executive order to have a mandatory buyback of all semi-auto weapons. Now, that's unconstitutional. It won't last, but it'll take a 1.5 years for people to get that through the court system. And that means Americans will be trespassed upon, have their property confiscated, and maybe a few die when they say they're not giving their guns up. Meanwhile, the cartels are bringing crates of guns across the southern border along with the kilos of dope. And that's part of what's going on. We've got a lack of character being taught in this country. It's being emasculated, and you cannot take a boy and healthily raise that child to be a man if you try to negate his masculinity. And I'm sorry, but if you wanted to go find it, you could have found it easy on Black Lives Matter's mantra, which got taken down after myself and a number of people attacked them. The first thing was, we are for the destruction of the traditional nuclear family. We are for the ending of cisgender privilege in the family. So man up, that's what we're talking about. And we got a white man, but he knows what is.
All right, brother Jabari, man. Powerful response from the judge. Powerful response, brother Jabari. This is a Frank Gary copyright. September the 8th, Judge Joe Brown versus Jabari Osaze. Brother Jabari, it's on you. Time will start when you're ready. I can't hear you, brother Jabari. Unmute yourself.
Yep, I'm here. I'm sorry, I was muted. We'll start in just a moment, just lining up a few things I need to show.
All right.
May I ask a question? Is this a debate, or are we supposed to be putting up references out of other publications? Now, I always thought a debate was between the two parties dealing with the logic that they had in their heads without taking a whole bunch of notes that they have not made contemporaneously with the debate, but that they have prepared beforehand to go forward. That's not a debate. That's just a recitation. Now, does my opponent want to go with what's inside his head that he's got there, or does he want to show some pictures?
Well, if I could just, you just Judge Joe Brown, when we do our debates, our motto over here is that we have to show sources for some of the things, most of the things we say. So,
Paul, you're breaking up bad. Breaking up bad.
Yeah. If I could add something really quickly, I teach debate, right? And when debate occurs, even if you're going to use the commonly used Lincoln Douglas debate format, sources are important. If you're having a conversation and you're not able to show how you came up with your analysis, you just say something and you have people have to just trust you, then that's more of a conversation that you might have on a street corner rather than a real intellectual forum.
Are you familiar with Albert Einstein? Would you please
tell me
what his sources were? Because he came up with something totally new with his special theory of relativity and general theory of relativity. Who was he going to use as a source?
Actually, mathematics was his source. He proved his theorem using he proved his theorem using mathematics, but you're not coming up with anything new.
Mathematics,
this is not
a language. I'm giving you something with the logic.
Neither of us are coming up with anything new. What we're doing is we are articulating how our ideas were formulated. And if your ideas aren't formulated with sources, then they're problems.
The last 60 years. I'm 77 years old. I've been working at this a long time. So if you want to know a resume of who I have met, talked to, that includes representation of a candidate for president of the United States in the law office I was with, a vice president of the United States in the law office I was with, a senator for the United States, represented in the law office, 4 mayors, Harold Washington, Tom Bradley of Los Angeles, A.C. Wharton of Memphis, Tennessee, met their
right. Hey, brother Joe Brown, we got people in the audience. We got to get back to the debate. We got to get back to what we're doing.
What
brother Jabari?
What I can say,
brother
what
Jabari,
I can say is,
start when you're ready. We got to get back to the debate. People is waiting. People pay for the debate, so we got to get back to it. Come on.
Okay.
Just,
and you already know, sa.neter.
Yeah.
I have lots of clear opinions I've worked in with
I'm going to
political.
start when you start, Jabari. Come on, just get to the debate.
Okay, so let's do it. Why don't you? How about you go ahead and start?
Now,
I actually have. Okay, please start. I have
All right.
lots of well-informed opinions, but the facts inform my opinions. That's where they come from. If you continually spout things that are incorrect, then what we recognize is you are using rumor and innuendo to develop your opinions. And if you did a little bit of digging, you would recognize that this fact that I believe is a fact is in fact not a fact. It's misinformation. Let me give you an example. We heard him say that she was in Canada in second grade. That's actually not correct. That's not correct. Please share, sa.neter. sa.neter. sa.neter.
Yeah.
Please share. You got to pause my time, man, if you're not able to talk right now. Come on, brother. Yes. Okay. So this comes from the National Post, okay? Kamala Harris, Canadian Connections, what we know about her childhood in Montreal. This describes, by the way, this is a Canadian paper. This describes what happened when she went to Montreal. It was published on August 28, 2024. I want to go all the way down, and you're going to see... here it is. This is in her memoir, The Truths We Hold: An American Journey. It says, when I was 12 years old, I thought of moving away from sunny California in February in the middle of a school year to a French-speaking foreign city covered in 12 feet of snow. And that was distressing. I want you to understand that she left for Canada when she was 12. Why did Judge Joe Brown mention that? Because he's trying to say that her comments around her being bussed at a certain time were not correct. How could she have been bussed when she was in Canada? She went to Canada when she was 12. She wasn't in second grade when she was 12. A second grader would probably be at around 7 or 8, maybe a little younger if they started school earlier. Here's a New York Times article. Kamala Harris.
Jabari, the sound is off. So I don't want
the sound is off?
Can you hear me?
Okay. I can hear you. You're breaking up. Are the folks in the chat? sa.neter, if you could pause for a second. Are the folks in the chat saying they're not hearing me clearly?
Yes. So I'm sorry, just hold a moment and let me make sure that it gets corrected. Sorry about that.
Okay.
We can't even hear you clear, Nepal. So yeah, the sound is messed up. All right, family. Sorry about the mix-up. Max Bird told me ahead of time, too.
Does that mean that my sound was messed up before? Do I need to go out and come back in?
No, your sound is perfectly clear.
I can hear you.
Yeah. It's coming from Nepal's end. You want to start yours all over, Jabari? Start it back?
That's not necessary. We
Okay.
could start it. I think mine says
You
2.5 minutes.
No, you got
2:47 is where it was. If you could start at 2:30, that'd be good.
What you mean, for your time?
Yeah, just I'll go for another 6 minutes or 6.5 or 5.5
I had you
minutes.
for 5:38. That's the time you got.
Okay,
That's my
we
pause.
could do that. That's fine.
Okay.
Tell me when we're ready to go.
All right. You and Judge Joe Brown could talk while Nepal get it ready, because we want the people to hear you talk so we can make sure they can hear it clearly.
I think that we're having a spirited debate. I hope that that's how the judge feels as well. I'm hoping that folks are hearing me clearly. The internet where I am should be pretty good.
Yeah, you good. You're good.
Good. Good. Just tell me when we're ready to go.
Yeah, they saying Barnes said that we can't hear clearly.
And Nepal is muted. That's why probably too. Nepal, you be muting it. They
No,
can't
it's
hear.
fine. No,
Okay.
I can meet up. There's, I'm working on it. It's almost done. I appreciate your patience. I
Sound
think
good now,
everybody's.
Nepal. It might be
You sound
better.
clearer, Nepal, now. You're not breaking up anymore. I hear you more clearly.
Okay, let me check. Let me check with the audience again. Senator, we're back on track. I thought you could hear me. Thank you for your patience. They said it's
All
it's
right.
good.
Brother Jabari, it's on you, man.
Okay.
Tell
As I
me-
was saying, the reason why Judge Brown actually was saying that Kamala Harris is ephemeral, is a liar, is because he said that she mentioned that she was being bused in second grade, but that she was in Canada in second grade. And as I already showed you, she actually went to Canada when she was 12. She went to high school in Canada. And so that is what the record shows. I want to be clear that this is not something that I could conjure in my mind. I am not Kamala Harris, nor am I her parents. I have to actually look at sources to see when she was in Canada and when she was in second grade. That's how this is done. So here are some more sources. This is New York Times, right? Kamala Harris and classmates were bused across Berkeley. The experience changed them, right? Many people call the New York Times the paper of record. Take a look at this. Students boarded a school bus in Berkeley, California in 1970. Students including young Kamala Harris, were bused into different neighborhoods in an effort to racially integrate the city's schools. You can see here, I'm going to scroll down instead of going so far. This is where Kamala Harris, in her debate with Joe Biden, actually says that she was part of the second class to integrate public schools, and she was bused to school every day. And you can see that there, to be very clear here. Even the New York Times is saying several years later, a young girl named Kamala Harris, the daughter of an Indian mother and a Jamaican father, boarded a school bus, part of that school integration program that would change her life, the city, and the country's conversation about racial politics. So I want you to be clear that this is something that occurred. This is something that we were clear about. You can even see descriptions from Joris Alkebulan, who actually was the first person in the first group that left. That actually was bused. I think that this is not something we ought to argue about. It should be really clear that this is something that occurred. Here goes Carol Porter, 55, who works in information technology. She was one of her classmates that was bused. We even have people who can actually describe their trips together. During the debate, she described herself as part of the second class integrated schools, and her classmates were the second group of kindergartners to be bused to schools outside their neighborhood. I don't think I need to say more about this. I continue to also hear Judge Joe Brown say being Jamaican means you can be anything. And it is true that Jamaican is a nationality, but I want us to be really clear that we've seen her family. I can show you more pictures of her family. I can show you, you saw a picture of her grandmother with hair more tightly curled than mine, and I think more tightly curled than Judge Joe Brown, who I used to watch when he had an afro or something close to it. Her hair seems more tightly curled than either of us. Neither of us have hair anymore, but her grandmother seemed to have more tightly curled hair, one of the markers of African heritage. I want to go down here. This is actually World Fact Book. Actually, it's put together by the Central Intelligence Agency. Wow. Did you know the Central Intelligence Agency keeps records on all of the countries of the world? Take a look here. I want you to see ethnic, oh, there it is, ethnic groups. This is their analysis of the ethnic makeup of Jamaica. It says it's 92.1% Black, 6.1% mixed, 0.8% East Indian. That's what he's trying to say she is. He's trying to say she's the less than 1% of the country. When we see who we're talking about, this doesn't jive, Joe Brown. And the other 0.4% and 0.7%. I want to be really clear. sa.neter, how much time do I have left?
You have 1 minute and 20 seconds.
Okay. I want to be really clear that what Judge Joe Brown is doing is he is trying to tell us that we should believe him because he is the source. In fact, his quote was, "I don't need a reference because I am the reference." I'm going to say to you that reference is bad. He stated several things that are incorrect here. Several things that are easily provable. I don't know whether he did any research. He ought to have. But this is a situation where if you actually investigate some of the things that you've heard, perhaps you'll recognize that you have actually been a victim of misinformation. And that misinformation is now being spouted by someone who has been revered in our neighborhood. It's sad that that's what we're hearing, but that's what I've continued to hear on virtually all of the presentations and interviews that Judge Joe Brown has done. Let's just be clear. Judge Joe Brown is a Trumper. He can vote for whoever he likes. For whoever he likes, that's his choice. This is the United States. You get to choose who you vote for. But to actually engage in peddling misinformation and lies is beneath this elder. And I'm asking him to do better. Thank you.
This is a Frank Gary copyright. September the 8th, Judge Joe Brown versus Jabari Osaze. Judge Joe Brown, it's on you. Time will start when you start speaking.
Okay. Ever heard of the National Socialist Workers Party? The acronym is Nazi. I find it interesting that you're spouting using Nazi terminology that has been revived by the Democratic Party. When I said source, I disagree with yours, and I think they're propaganda engines for the Democratic Party and a cult they're trying to push. At the time she was in school, I was making frequent trips from Los Angeles to the Bay Area. We had some projects going, and the busing was not due to integration. It was due to something else. They had a water crisis up there, and they had crowding at some schools and not at others. The other thing is, too, that subject came up with my particular home situation quite often because my now ex-wife is the exact same age as Kamala Harris, Imhoff, and lived in the area. And I didn't do it in association with this, but for some other reasons, we discussed what her situation was up there. The busing was to alleviate crowded conditions, not for integration, because California never, ever had segregated schools based on race. There were segregated problems based on neighborhood makeup. That's written into the California Constitution. Again, this is just typical ignorance. Once again, we get misinformation spread by certain news sources that do not limit themselves to accurate reporting. They try to editorialize in their what they call news. So it's not good. And the ignorant, the countrified, they think if you look a certain kind of way, you have to be something else. Try going through Australia and taking a look at Aboriginals. Try going elsewhere in the world, like India or Pakistan, and taking a look at some of the very dark people there, very swarthy people, very dark-eyed people, some with kinky hair, some with wavy hair, who are proud Hindu Brahmin caste. They're called Tamil Hindu. and they're quite dark. They look like her mother. And her father, I find interestingly enough, refused to attend her inauguration as, let's say, Vice President of the United States. He refused to attend her inauguration as senator for the state of California. And if you search, you can find some of the periodicals that he wrote the articles in. He wasn't quoted, he wrote them, and he called her a liar and a fraud. Now I think they're trying to say he was only talking about her claim that Jamaicans smoked a lot of dope, which he found insulting. He was also talking about her attempts to interject race into the political realm, and he called her out on that. He wrote the articles. I don't know what they've done with the online editions, but I've got a hard copy somewhere around the house in the attic that I had at one time that I found was very interesting. Now, that said, what you're getting is a classic example of Nazification. When you get control of the media in an area, the media, one, tries to get you to think that the person that they're supporting has overwhelming support. Two, they tell lies long and loudly, and they quote things that are non-existent in reality, but are exchanged freely amongst themselves. So it looks like it's the truth. And we had a classic example just this weekend when the Democratic Party sponsored at several football games skywriters who went across the stadiums and were promoting this fiction about Trump supporting Project 25. Trump has denied Project 25 over and over. He says he's got his own program, and in spite of what the Heritage Foundation thinks, he's not endorsing it. But yet the Democratic Party and the Harris-Walz campaign are promoting this fiction, just like we're getting here today, that Trump supports Project 25. Now, as a fact, the Heritage Foundation also endorsed Barack Obama. For the 2 years he was in the United States Senate, they declared that he was the number third highest rated United States senator in their assessment when it came to conservative voting. They gave him a 96% on their report card. The number 2 man got 96 plus, and the number 3 man got 97%. So for all of you Barack Obama fans, understand that the same Heritage Foundation that came up with Project 25 also picked him as their third most conservative voting senator for the 2 years he was in the U.S. Senate. So just because a group of people decides that they want to push a program upon someone they think might be receptive for the program does not mean that person endorses it. For that matter, we have to look at Byrd, Senator Byrd, former Grand Dragon for the KKK, who Joe Biden listed as one of his most important mentors and whom he eulogized at his funeral. Also Strickland and Eastland from Mississippi, Faubus, who stood in the doorway of Little Rock High School and said, "As long as I'm governor of the state of Arkansas, no niggers will cross the doorway of this high school." Eisenhower sent the 101st Airborne down there to clear the way. Also, George Wallace, doomed to a wheelchair on a failed assassination attempt while running for president. Same time period that Robert Kennedy got assassinated running for president. Same time period Martin Luther King got assassinated just speaking out against the war and revitalizing labor. But all of these racists, not Kings and not Kennedy, but the other ones I heard, my own 2 ears, saw with my own 2 eyes in 1972 outside of the state capitol in Dover, Delaware, when they were promoting him on his first run for office. So you got Faubus, you got Wallace, you have Stennis, you have Eastland, and you have Byrd. And they were bragging about Biden being the next generation of Dixiecrat who knows his Negroes. And we don't need to worry about what he said because most of us have heard him when he said it, or closely approximate in time when we've heard the video. So these things are inescapable. Do I need to go cite some New York newspaper outside of, say, the Wall Street Journal?
This is a Frank Gary copyright. September the 8th, Judge Joe Brown versus Jabari Osaze. All right, Brother Jabari. This is your last and final third round. And then we're going to get into some questions with you and Joe Brown where y'all could talk to each other. Brother Jabari, time will start when you're ready. Time will start when you are ready, brother.
Sure. Give me 1 second. I want to say, you can start, by the way. I want to say that I used to watch Judge Joe Brown on television, and I was impressed by some of what he used to do in those days. And for those of you who might not have heard this, Judge Joe Brown and I are both members of Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated. I would have, and when I saw him in Atlanta, I really looked forward to hearing what he was going to say. And once I heard his presentation, I was horrified. I don't know who this is sitting in front of us. I don't know. It sounds to me like some of what he's saying is very different than the Judge Joe Brown that I thought I knew. And I'm concerned. I'm concerned. Let me start by saying that he commented that busing in California was never based on race, and that you should don't listen to some newspaper. I won't listen to a newspaper, Judge Joe Brown. I'm going to go directly to Berkeley Public Schools and see what they said about what they did. Can you please show this, sa.neter? Okay, this is from Berkeley Public Schools. And not only do they, this isn't some revisionist history, let's be clear, they even show the article which was published in the Los Angeles Times, September 2nd, 1968, which says, Berkeley School Integration Program proceeds smoothly. City will become first in nation to fully desegregate. By the way, you don't desegregate because of a water issue. Desegregate by using buses to change unusual socio-geographic patterns. By the way, if you are changing socio-geographic patterns, once again, this is not because of a water crisis, which is what he said first, or because of a crowding situation, which he said second. By the way, those two things don't fit together. I don't think the argument fits together, but let's ignore what he said and just look at the truth. They were celebrating the 50th anniversary of Berkeley's pioneering busing program for school integration. And you can go directly to Berkeley Public Schools and read what they were talking about. They even mentioned that they were concerned that things didn't move as quickly as they would have liked after the Supreme Court's Brown v. Board of Education decision in 1954. Clearly, this is a situation where they attempted to make some changes based on segregation. That's what they were doing. By the way, the article that the plan that they put forward, you should know. Here's the article I showed you before from the New York Times, right, about the busing. The report that Berkeley Public Schools put forward that set the busing in play was called Integration, a Plan for Berkeley. Integration, a Plan for Berkeley. See, it's not good enough to just say you have your own ideas and that you're the source. Unless you are the Berkeley school, unless you are Kamala's parents, unless you are Kamala, by the way, that's how you say her name, Kamala Harris herself, you have to look for sources to understand what occurred. That's what you have to do. If you aren't doing that, you are susceptible to misinformation. That's how this works. That's how this works. And so I am really concerned about what we are seeing. I'm not even sure. He even said that Kamala has said on day one she's going to take away assault weapons. Where does that come from? Look at this. Here goes the American Progress Action Committee. And it says, despite lies, by the way, this article came out September 5th, 2024. We're talking about just 3 days ago. Despite lies spread by Trump and the NRA, Harris and Walz do not want to take everyone's gun away. Let's be clear about what it says. And Trump, the person who he's nursing from, whom our dear judge is nursing from, said, would anybody mind if they came into your house and took away your gun? She's for taking away all of your guns. This is not true. The National Rifle Association has repeated this confiscation lie, telling the Washington Post a camel can't camouflage the fact that Kamala Harris and Tim Walz are gun-grabbing radicals who support confiscating firearms for law-abiding hunters and gun owners. This is not true. Why do people continue to say it? Either because they are intentionally misrepresenting themselves and they are in fact just right-wing folks who are going to misrepresent everything they possibly can, or they just have not done enough research. When I hear someone say that they don't need references, that makes me think that they haven't done enough research. By the way, Judge Joe Brown also mentioned Project 2025. I wanted to mention it. I'm glad he did. This is the plan that was made up by Trump loyalists. Here goes NPR, okay? Project 2025 was made by Trump loyalists and allies of Trump. He's tried to distance. You should know that Project 2025 is a 922-page blueprint for the next Republican president, and it comes from the Heritage Foundation. By the way, I would love for Judge Joe Brown to show us why he says the Heritage Foundation endorsed Barack Obama. In fact, what they did is they supported the fact that he was going forward with the Affordable Care Act, which some people call Obamacare, which was originally created by the Heritage Foundation. That's not an endorsement. They simply said, you are actually moving forward with one of our policies and we support that. That's it. That's it. That's it. So he's misrepresenting a lot of things here. I want, hopefully I'll have a chance to go back into this piece on Project 2025. But you know what I want to show you? I want to show, first of all, you should know Project 2025 was written by many of the folks that were in the Trump administration, and a book based on its ideas it was supposed to come out this month. I believe they're postponed until after the election. Guess who wrote the foreword for the book on Project 2025? The vice presidential candidate. This is the person that we actually should recognize is the person who is supporting it. If he's trying to distance himself from Project 2025, it would be smart for him not to choose his vice presidential candidate as someone who actually has written the book on the topic. That's what's happening here. And so if you're confused about this, just go ahead and ask J.D. Vance. He's not going to want to answer, by the way, but you should know that that's the case. I want to, with the little time I have left, I want you to hear what one of the major authors of Project 2025 said about Trump trying to distance himself from it. Listen to what he said in a hidden video. What happened? Some folks came to, who pretended to be the family members of a major donor to Project 2025, went to speak to one of the major authors about Trump distancing himself. Take a listen. Let me share it this way, by the way. Hopefully you'll be able to hear it. sa.neter, please let me know if, wait, I'll do it this way. I think you'll be able to hear it this way. I think this might be more. Please share. Let's see if you can hear it.
Hidden camera of one of the architects of Project 2025.
Can you hear that, sa.neter?
Yes, it's low, but we can hear it.
Let me see if I can turn it up a little bit. Okay, let's give that a try.
The policy director of the
Yes,
RNC
that's perfect.
Good.
wrote the party's official platform. In this secret video obtained by CNN, the RNC operative talks about his controversial conservative blueprint for a second Trump term, and that Trump's disavowal of Project 2025 is just politics. Hyung Lam out front for us tonight.
Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name.
You are looking at secretly recorded video of Russell Vought, a former cabinet member in the Trump administration.
This year has been predominantly now getting ready for a year 5 of a Trump administration. We have about 350 different documents that are regulations and things of that nature.
Vought, the platform policy director for the Republican National Committee, says he is building the plan for Trump's second term.
I don't know what the hell it is. It's Project 25.
Trump publicly disavowed Project 2025, a conservative blueprint for his administration if he gets reelected. But in private, Vought said that's just politics. The details of the real plans are secret and based on Trump's own beliefs.
Notwithstanding, I expect you to hear 10 more times from the rally, the president, distancing himself from the left's boogeyman of Project 2025.
Yeah. And you're not worried about that?
I'm not worried about it. And so I see what he's doing is just very, very conscious, distancing himself from a brand. He's very supportive of what we do, and know that we have all manner of things that we do that's, even unrelated to Project 2020.
I want you to be really clear that the only way you believe that Donald Trump is not beholden to Project 2025 is if you have actually sipped the Kool-Aid. And I think that our Judge Joe Brown has a Kool-Aid mustache. Thank you.
All right, man. That's what I'm talking about. We going into the last and final round with Judge Joe Brown. This is a Frank Gary copyright. September the 8th, Judge Joe Brown versus Jabari Osaze.
You're talking about first point, 1968. I was running a playground, Trinity Avenue Elementary School, with a doctor, now deceased, Dr. Clifford Stewart, and a now Dr. Ron Chappelle. My parents had taught school for a long time in California, and I shortly thereafter became a substitute teacher. I played football at Dorsey High before they even built Crenshaw High. Dorsey High was 1/3 black, 1/3 Asian, 1/3 white. One of the people in what was known as the Southern League, one of the schools, was LA High School, which was 1/2 white. About 1/4 Asian and 1/4 black. Washington High School was about 1/3 white, 1/3 Mexican, and 1/3 black. Fremont High School was 100% black. Jefferson High School was 100% black. And what the school looked like depended upon what the neighborhoods that fed into the school looked like, not any official policy. As I said, there was discrimination of one sense in that some schools might be more or less black, white, brown, red, yellow, depending upon the demographics of their residents. There was busing for that purpose, but not to alleviate any official segregation. Also, as I said before, my ex-wife was in school in the same school district as Kamala Harris at the same time. Now, let's get to this other thing here. If you come up with the statements of another wing or arm of the same propaganda machine, there is no credibility to be assigned to one other than the fact that they're just telling a lie long and loudly to get everybody, including the liar, to believe it. That's the way they operate. So you're not giving anything credible by simply giving somebody's statement who's part of the cabal in the first place. They are about the business of emasculating the country, destroying the traditional nuclear family, and trying to put in place a rainbow cult. And when I'm not talking about gay folk per se, but I am talking about the LGBTQIA plus cult, which they are trying to impose as the official religion of the country. You see it in every school. You see the rainbow all up and down the hallway and in the classroom. You see it in official buildings. You can't put a cross in those buildings. You can't put a crescent. You can't put a six-pointed star. You can't put six-armed Shiva. You can't put a statue of Buddha or any representation of Confucius. You can't put in anything for the Sikh faith. You can't do that, but you have the rainbow in there. That's what they're all doing, and they're part of this lying cabal that they want to hold up with a straight face as something good. Now, you're talking about percentage, as you mentioned in Jamaica. Well, let's look at this. The percentage of the Jewish population of the United States is about 2% of the overall population, but that 2% has a very profound influence on what happens with the country. So just because there's a low percentage, you can't discount it. The Census Bureau comes back with information that suggests that for transsexuals, that's less than 0.5%. You have lesbianism, a little less than 1%. Homosexual males, a little less than 1.5%, but they certainly have influence in what happens with the country. So when you start talking about percentages of this, that, and the other in Jamaica, you have to look at what those percentages look like in the United States of America. I just quoted 4 of them that have similar percentages to what you're talking about in Jamaica. Now, moving on from that to the program in question, the man made no bones about not adopting it, and I don't care what somebody else has to say about it. Does that make it true? Oh, does that have a resource? Is there any recording on it? No, that's somebody doing just what I told you. I say, I saw this, heard this, smelt this, felt this. Now, if you want to get into that, let's look at Waltz, Tampon Tim. And let's look at what his state signed into law, where if a parent says he does not want his child, minor child, involved with transitioning and getting mutilated, well, Tim Waltz just signed into law an act that says the state can intervene and deprive the parent of his parental rights. Let's talk about somebody in the cabinet, but let's talk about somebody in the family. I just posted an article on X that was published this weekend. And guess what it says? Tim Waltz's brother says he's not fit to be vice president of the United States. And in fact, the reality is Tim Waltz's brother and other members of his family have contributed to the Trump campaign and support Donald Trump for president of the United States of America. Now, isn't that something, if you want to talk about innuendo from people that ought to know? And you can look it up. And by the way, all that I just gave you, go look it up. It's on Google. And if you want to find out what the Heritage Foundation actually did, just Google them. They do have a report card that they advertise, and you can go back and look at it. And by the way, Obamacare was drafted in 2003 by Dr. William Frist of Nashville, Tennessee, whom I've met personally, whose family founded Blue Cross, Blue Shield, and most of the HMOs. He could not get that passed in 2003 and didn't have a chance until it developed that Obama's trust fund wound up investing in Blue Cross somewhere around 2008, 2009. And then Obama got it passed in the United States Senate and then influenced in the House. And now it's known as Obamacare, but it was drafted by Senate Republican Majority Leader, Dr. Bill Frist of Nashville, Tennessee. All right. That ought to end this right there, because what we have is somebody's writing it up, but this is not primitive society where it is written, therefore it is. This is modern society, and other people can write. So just because somebody wrote does not mean that it is real. And you're not listening to recordings of the person in question saying something about it. You're listening to other people who have done the same thing I've done. Just state what they think they heard. State what their opinions about the thing happen to be. And I know the other thing is, raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the evidence you give here today will be the truth? Please take the witness stand. And somebody gives sworn testimony, and that becomes the evidence in a case that'll put somebody in the electric chair if necessary, or put them in a penitentiary after I sentence them for life without possibility of parole or with parole. Now, I've got a puppy over here that's getting a little out of hand. Come here. She wants to get in the debate. But that's about the size of it. So it's all a matter of opinion, and it matters not whether you get it in one publication or another, because the NRA, by the way, calls Kamala's refutation of what she's already said a lie. And I trust the NRA far more than I would trust these leftist magazines and periodicals. And as Malcolm X said,
This is a Frank Gary copyright. September the 8th, Judge Joe Brown versus Jabari Osaze.
Or white liberals, if you cite white liberals.
All right, family. We are up now. I need to ask y'all some questions. We are done with that. Brother Jabari, I would like to ask you a question. Does Kamala Harris' race impact whether...
Wait. That was his round? Is that what that was?
Yeah, that was his last and final round.
Okay,
so now we are into the question and answer period. So I would like to ask y'all some questions here. Does Kamala Harris' race impact whether black people should vote for her? What do you think on this issue, Jabari?
I think that generally speaking, we want someone who's going to represent us, who understands us. And that has been the reason why people have looked towards candidates of color, particularly black candidates, with regard to representing black people. Because if you have a black candidate, you hope that they'll understand your plight, understand your history, and then represent you better. And so that's where that's gone. But I think that what folks on the right have done about race with regard to both Barack Obama and Kamala Harris is laughable. It's laughable. It just strains credulity. There's nothing in that. I mean, they say that she turned black. This is someone who went to Howard University and pledged Alpha Kappa Alpha, our sister organization, by the way, Judge Joe Brown. You're speaking like this about an AKA. I mean, wow. But I really do believe that this is problematic. And as I close in answering that question, I do want to just loop this around. Judge Joe Brown is talking about growing up in Crenshaw. I know that he did, because I've done a little bit of research in Crenshaw. But if for those of you who don't know California, you might actually think that that would give him insight into Berkeley, California. But for someone who does know a bit about California, I want you to know that Crenshaw is nearly 400 miles away from Berkeley. Nearly 400 miles away. If you were in a car, it would take you nearly 6 hours to get there. So him talking about his time in high school in Berkeley is of no relevance whatsoever to busing in Berkeley. We've looked at the Berkeley website and they've told us very clearly what their policy was.
All right. Same question for you, Judge Joe Brown. Does Kamala Harris' race impact whether black people should vote for her? Do you think that's the reason why there's a lot of black people out there saying we need to vote for this sister?
She ain't a sister. She is a Hindu. They
Okay.
look like sisters, but they're not. Now, aside from that, what connection does she have with this country? Does she have a parent who went through segregation? Does she have a grandparent who went through segregation, a great-grandparent who went through Jim Crow? Anybody who was enslaved? Answer no, whatever her color scheme is. It's like a decoy you paint up to look like a mallard duck and you put it out there in the water to get other ducks flying over and say, oh, there's some ducks down there. Let's go there. That's what you're talking about. It's a fake game. And I grew up on 58th Place in Normandy, which is a lot further in the hood. And I didn't get to Crenshaw until I was in high school. And by the way, I know it's 600 miles away, but there was this thing called PSA, which back then, when they didn't have this airport security, you walked to the gate, paid $16.50, and every 30 minutes there was a flight from LA to San Francisco or Berkeley or let's say Palo Alto or Vegas or Nevada, Reno, excuse me, and $16.50, a 32 round trip. Plane left every half hour, and I did it a lot. 1968, I think I had a lady friend that lived up in the Bay Area, and I was going up there a lot, and we had this thing with the Black Student Alliance, Black Student Union, Black Panther Party, and we were going back and forth quite frequently, several times a month, back and forth between LA and the Bay Area. And as I said, we did not have any official segregation policy, though we had schools that were, I suppose, segregated, but it wasn't official. It just had to do with residential.
All right. All right.
That said, you know, it's a big issue of who are you going to believe? Somebody that is a leftist Democrat or somebody on the other side. So all my opponent has done is cited leftist Democrats.
All right, Brother Jabari. Does Donald Trump's sexual record somehow affect your view of him?
I think we want the person who is going to be our president to have some basic morals, right? I think that what consenting adults do is what consenting adults do. Honestly, his sexual record is of less importance to me with regard to who he's been intimate with. But I think we know very clearly about Donald Trump that he had sex with a porn star while his wife was 5 months, had a 5-month-old baby. We know that he was reporting in New York newspapers. Because he's been adjudicated, Judge Joe Brown. You know how adjudication occurs. You're the judge. And let me also say he has been adjudicated. This is your system.
What?
Let me also hit dog on holler. A hit dog on holler. Go ahead. Hit dog on holler.
Jabari?
Can I also say that we also know that I'm a New Yorker, by the way. I know you don't know that, Judge Joe Brown, but I remember seeing the newspapers with him describing his sexual exploits when he was married. With the woman that would become his third wife, he was in the paper while he's married to his second wife saying, this is the best sex I've ever had. In the paper while he had a wife at home with another woman. I don't think that having sex in and of itself is a problem at all. But when we see him do these sorts of things, when we see him credibly adjudicated as to sexual misconduct in terms of actually touching women against their will, when we hear him say that he can grab a woman by their privates and they'll let him because he's a star, those sorts of things I think are disqualifying. And that's why Donald Trump will not ever get my vote.
All right, Judge, you can respond.
Okay, wow. Locker Talk for Men that some punk published when he went off code is Locker Talk. By the way, I have, let's see, a niece that runs a beauty salon, former mother-in-law that ran a beauty salon. And what the ladies say up in the beauty salon is a lot filthier than what guys talk about in the locker room. So, wow, we whoopee. Next bloody thing is you can't cite one iota of proof except what's published in your newspapers, which are nothing but propaganda. So, other thing too is I met one of his wives, sat on the ski lift with her. She used to ski with my ex-wife, who was a ski instructor up in Aspen. She didn't have any problems with the man. So he gets nookie. What about the hoe who sits there and admitted all of the affairs and how she slept her way to the top? Okay, Willie Brown, Montel, all of the rest of the folk. The reputation she had up in a certain frat house of being the second floor piece when anybody was horny and wanted it. Oh,
Wow.
that's really swift.
Wow.
You talking about, I don't mind a woman doing it recreationally. That's her business. But when you do it with the casting couch for professional advancement, or you're doing it for money, that means you a hoe. And I represented enough of them to know what they are. And the point is when you got a hoe, you got a pimp. So who she have for her pimp? And when we get tricked out, where does what we turn over go to? See, she admits it. And by the way, my mother was an AKA. She got made 1934. She'd roll in her grave if she knew this slut was an AKA.
Wow.
Bottom line is that it's awful. And other things, she's not the first Black Greek. You are an alpha. Do you know who Big Brother Hubert Humphrey is?
Of course I know who Hubert
United
Humphrey
States
is.
of America.
Of course I know who
blonde
Hubert
hair,
Humphrey is.
blue-eyed, white boy, 6'4". I met him 1966. I pledged.
All right, Brother Jabari, you want to respond to that, man? Judge is turning up a little bit.
I mean, let's just be really clear. If you talk about a man who pays a porn star to have unprotected sex while his wife has a 5-month-old child at home, if you talk about a man who very clearly in the newspaper said he was having sex with other women when he was married, if you talk about a man who touches women against their will and says they'll let you do it, and you say it's okay, they have nookie. But then when you talk about a woman who supposedly, with innuendo, he has no proof of this, supposedly had intercourse, now she's a hoe. This is misogyny. This is misogyny. And I dare say that your mother is rolling in her grave listening to you talk about women the way that you do. This is misogyny, and it's beneath you, Judge Joe Brown. It's beneath a brother of Alpha Phi Alpha. We should take your shield. We should take your shield.
And I'll whip your ass
about a woman that way.
Because ain't none of you man enough these days and didn't get made hard enough. You got
brother, you are 77. Whose ass you whooping?
Go for it.
What?
Go for it. Go for
brother,
it.
If you get in the cut, you'll see how much man I am. Stop it.
Enough,
all right. Let's get it back. Let's get it back.
Get it on.
Ridiculous.
You think you can do
Ridiculous. You should get in the cut right now. Get in the cut.
Hard.
And he knows what this means, sa.neter. Get in the cut.
All right,
Get in the cut, older.
Jabari, you hold on.
Not get read in with
Get in
this
the cut.
sissy stuff where somebody touches you. Oh my God.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on.
Come on now.
Judge Joe Brown. Judge Joe Brown. Let's move on. Judge Joe Brown. Do you think that the presidency of the United States, do you think that the president of the United States is a role for a man and not a woman?
Yes, commander-in-chief. Do you want, look, this word salad, today is tomorrow because tomorrow is today. See, that's why today is tomorrow. Heifer, you're suffering from early onset dementia. That's what your problem is. You drink too much. And you're going to get up and say that in front of Putin. Oh, and Putin endorsed her this weekend, saying, I think it'll be easier dealing with her. And I find her laughing and her grin. amusing. Xi Jinping, oh, very interesting. Or one of these Arab sheikhs up in there is going to be impressed with, like, what is wrong with you? Have you gone insane? And see, she can't even deal with that because they gave her that job and had to pull her because she was failing. She can't keep the border secure. So she's going to be commander in chief. And would you stop using those feminist terms to try and describe this? Come on, brother, come back on man.
What feminist term?
Start talking like man to man instead of I'm listening to some rabid white feminist talk to me.
What is
Will you please do that? And by the way, out of the night that covers me, black as the pit from pole to pole. Now,
I thank whatever God can be for my incomparable.
Let him finish, Jabari.
No, we're reciting it together. He's asking me to do that, son.
Get back
You have to be an alpha to know that that's what he's asking.
Okay.
By the way, brother.
Stop using
brother,
feminist rhetoric and
brother,
talk to me man
brother,
to man.
Ask where I went to college, Judge Joe Brown. Ask where I went to college.
I don't need to know.
You do need to know I'm a Cornell brother.
Why?
Because you are confused. That's why.
Why do I need
That's why. Because you are confused.
Why do I need to know?
Move to the next one, sa.neter.
All right. I went to UCLA. Where'd you go to college?
I'm surprised you went to college the way you're speaking.
He said, hell, everybody
you must be an honorary
college. My grandfather on my mother's side was a physician after he murdered 2 deputies for lynching another uncle.
What's the next question?
My other grandfather
hold on, Jabari. Hold on.
To Kansas City. He was a preacher, and both grandmothers were school teachers. One of them was a professor. Now, everybody went to college. So what about it? That's what you're supposed to do.
Okay, so now let me ask you, Brother Jabari, similar the same question, Brother Jabari. Do you think Kamala Harris is fit to be a president of the United States of America, being a woman, knowing that you got to also be a cold-blooded murderer? You got to be ready to drop the bomb, and you got to be ready to push that button. Do you think she got what it takes to be the president of the United States of America, brother?
See, this is where me being a historian comes into play. We have a long history of African women as heads of states. We have a long women of African women leading the military. We have a long history of Black women in charge. And I am not emasculated by seeing a sister do well. It seems like my opponent may be, but I'm going to really clearly say to you that the presidency of the United States should not be dictated by gender. And I think that one of the things that I think I may be hearing Joe Brown allude to is he doesn't believe that women should be president. He should just say it plainly. But maybe if he did, it would make it clearer where we are. Maybe we'd be able to clear up some of this conversation and the folks in the audience would truly understand where we stand. So that's really what we need to do. By the way, I'm going to say one thing in closing. He mentioned Tim Walz's brother saying that he's unfit, right? Since we're talking about parents, let's acknowledge that Donald Trump's nephew says that he heard him use the N-word many times. How about that?
Said honky or cracker, anything like that?
You want to actually talk about what family members do?
And you've never
Let's
heard
acknowledge that.
You yourself have never used
so he's okay with a man that uses the N-word, but uncomfortable with the woman as president.
So
Judge Joe Brown, your mentality is from 1923. It should stay there. It should stay there.
All right, no insults, Brother Jabari. We don't want no insults, brother.
How was that an insult? President is.
I didn't insult him.
You okay with that?
Okay.
I did not insult him.
All right. Okay, brother.
You okay with that?
All right, Judge Joe Brown.
My answer to that, yeah, I would not follow a woman into combat. No how, no way, because my duty is to protect.
Got him.
No, you got get me nothing. Bullshit. Excuse my language.
Got him.
Bull.
Brother Joe Brown, your sources are, trust me, bro.
Let him respond, Jabari. Let him respond now.
Everybody
He's already
responded.
It was my turn to respond. He's
just talking. Something happened. I'm proud of it. I'm a misogynist, no problem. I'm chauvinist, no problem. Because
sa.neter,
I protect womanhood, promote manhood, also
sa.neter,
protect childhood.
sa.neter.
I'm
My
not
work for the
somebody
day is
who's used
done.
to a woman running the household. I grew
I
up
have
in. It
gotten
didn't
him
happen.
very
My father
clearly
did.
to explain his positions
He
when no
was
one else
a-
online has been able to. If you don't put
He
this
was a
debate up
master
online
sergeant,
soon, sa.neter, I'm
United
coming
States
after you.
Army,
Because now
decorated,
we
came
see
out of
who the
World
real
War
Joe
II.
Brown is.
He
All
didn't
right,
play
hold on.
that.
All right, Judge.
He didn't
Donald
play that.
Trump.
He, by the way, was Alpha. Got made Beta chapter, 1947. Same
All right,
year
all
I
right,
was
all
born.
right. I got you. All right, Judge Joe Brown. Donald Trump's connection to January 6th attack on the Capitol. Do you think that right there should somehow disqualify him?
No, and by the way, they keep using the term insurrection, and the reason
Yeah.
they keep trying
Talk
to
about it.
acclimate it to insurrection is because the Constitution of the United States says the protections of the Constitution are suspended in two instances: invasion and insurrection. Insurrection is what a civil war is. That was not a civil war with 180 people. No how, no way. Next thing, the U.S. Supreme Court has for centuries, 200 plus, as a matter of fact, years, ruled that what Trump did was not in violation of what his rights were under the First Amendment. Next thing is the next item on the agenda, January 6th, was something known as the Confidence in Elections Act of 1877. It says the Vice President of the United States, when there is an apparent lack of confidence in the electoral process, shall not certify the proposed electoral college vote count, but shall instead call for the appointment of a 15-man committee, 5 from the House, 5 from the Senate, 5 from the Supreme Court. Said committee shall take a minimum of 10 days to conduct an independent audit or such extra time as is necessary. That was the next item on the agenda that Pelosi tabled. So when Trump calls over and tells Pence don't do that, he's asking him to follow the law. And the law was not followed. So what do we have here? 180 people? And then if you want to look it back, go Google it. Look up disturbances and demonstrations in Washington, D.C. And in the proceeding years, going back to the mid 1960s, you got demonstrations of 40,000, 35,000, 60,000 people where they broke stuff up. Going back 100 years, you got a riot that took place in Washington, D.C. in 1919 where 500 plus people were killed and they had to call in the cavalry to put it down. Unfortunately for the white folk, they suffered more casualties than the black folk did because there was a gathering of black veterans who had just gotten back from the trenches in France, and they armed up thanks to the Pullman car porters smuggling in guns from Baltimore. And the brothers got on the roofs and they started sniping the white folk trying to burn down the tenements. So if you want to talk about an insurrection, let's talk about the real ones, not some sham that has been put up to be something it isn't because the news media decides that they want to use their position as spokesman for this left-wing liberal thing to try and push.
All right, Brother Jabari, you want to respond?
First of all, I want you to understand that what happened on January 6th is that a president of the United States weaponized a violent mob of primarily white folks to attack the Capitol, to attack the legislature, to attack the Congress of the United States when they were certifying the votes. This man does not believe in democracy. That is why Donald Trump should not even be eligible to run. This is very, very clear. He weaponized a mob. I want to ask those of you in the audience to ask yourself a question. If those folks are black and they were moving towards the Capitol, what do you think might have happened? In actuality, you should understand that this was an armed insurrection against the Capitol.
Who
and
was
Donald
armed?
Trump was trying to steal. Donald
Who was
Trump
armed?
was trying
Not one
to
gun
steal
was
an
recovered.
election. Number
Not
two,
one gun was
I
recovered.
want you to
Not one
also
person but the
recognize,
cops, which were
obviously
mostly
you don't
black, were
understand
armed.
decorum.
Who
Hold
was
on, hold on.
armed?
Fact
Fact check.
Hold on, Judge.
Fact
We're gonna
check.
get to
Who
you.
was
We're gonna get to
armed?
you.
In addition to this, Judge Joe Brown doesn't seem to understand that he's talking to a historian.
I
That
am
stuff that
too.
he just
So my
cited,
history is
that
better than
stuff
your
that he
history.
cited at the
Cite,
end,
you're talking
you
citation.
should
Cite
understand
one
that
recovered
he
firearm
was
from that scene.
All right,
I
Judge.
he
You
was
gotta let him
attempting,
talk. Gotta let him
and then you're
talk.
going to have to mute him. He was trying to say to black people that this country should use the same strategy that was used in the Hayes-Tilden Compromise of 1877. See, you didn't think I knew what you were referring to. I do, because I'm the historian.
That's not
The
what I was
Hayes-Tilden
talking about.
Compromise, the Hayes-Tilden Compromise came about when the Democrats and Republicans could not agree on who won the election. One side clearly had the popular vote. The other one had the Electoral College, by the way, a system that was created to enforce slave states. Understand that as they came together, they made an agreement to betray black people. That is what led to the troops being moved from the South. And that's how Jim Crow became the law of the land. The agreement that he's trying to force down your throats, black man, black woman, is an agreement that black men hanging at the end of a noose by a tree. This is what Judge Joe Brown, what happened to him, is trying to sell to our audience. You should listen carefully to what he's saying, because he is not in favor of you. Got me clapping now. I'm so heated.
All right, Judge, you can respond.
Okay, first off, this isn't a democracy. This is a republic. There's a big difference. Next thing is you're trying to obfuscate what you're talking about. You're not much of a historian because you would take it in context. Next thing, it was your Democratic Party that was causing the trouble. The Republicans were trying to save the thing. Also, you can't get around the fact that what the Confidence in Elections Act of 1877, which was indeed part of the compromise, says is when there is a lack of confidence, the Vice President shall not certify the proposed electoral college count, but shall call for the appointment of a 15-man committee. That was actually on the docket for the U.S. House when Nancy Pelosi tabled it due to the demonstration. Brother, you ain't seen nothing. I've been in demonstrations a lot rowdier than that, where there were 3, 4, 5, 6, 10, 15, 20 times 180 people. And there was not single one weapon recovered. That's a lie. The only person that got injured dropped dead of a heart attack, and that has nothing to do with anybody being armed. Next thing, the one person that got wounded was an off-duty white female cop who got shot by a Capitol policeman. So where are your weapons? Who got armed? That was criminal trespass and misdemeanor vandalism. And they made a whole lot out of it.
Bring it out, Judge. Okay, let me go right here. Let's talk about who got the best policy when it comes to abortion. What is the perspective of Trump versus Kamala, Brother Jabari, when it comes to the abortion?
I honestly think that when a woman is forced to have an abortion, there's a sad day. I don't think that anyone should be happy when someone has an abortion. However, I want to be really clear that most of the women who actually have abortions already have other children. They're not simply deciding they no longer want a child. We have to focus on giving the woman a right to decide what she should do, one. And two, we should focus on making having children easier, more affordable. That's where the real line is. For those people who are against abortion, the same people who are against abortion are in favor of the death penalty. The same people who are against abortion don't believe that there should be universal pre-K. The same people who are against abortion say that we should not increase the child the child tax credit. The reality is they have weaponized an issue so that they can get to power. And some people, particularly people who are in the Christian side of our democratic polity, have actually gone for the okie doke and gotten confused. And so that is the issue. I think that we should trust women with their doctors to decide what should happen. That's what I believe.
Who have the
but
best?
do I think we should be happy about abortions going on? No. I think that we should create an environment where women are able to have children and women are able to be mothers and men are able to be fathers easily in this country. Right now, it is not. The second thing that most people, listen, there are only two things that people really struggle with. Well, the top two things people struggle with every month is their housing costs and childcare. It ought not be that way. That's a problem.
Who has the best plan for abortion?
Clearly, we can see what Trump has done. Because of him putting 3 people on the Supreme Court, Roe v. Wade was overturned. And because of that, in Texas alone, 23,000 women who were the victims of incest had to give birth to those children. 23,000 in Texas alone. Clearly, Kamala Harris has the better grasp on this topic.
All right, Judge, go ahead. You can speak on
Well,
it.
what the Supreme Court did was it didn't outlaw abortion. It just left it to the states. So let it be left to the states. If you live in a state that approves it, you're in good luck. If not, you go to a state that does.
Wow.
So it's not outlawed. It's just up to the state. So that's probably the way things will work out best, where you leave it local. Now, that said, I think since you touched on it, I'm deep into this. I've been doing it for 50 years. I was the least reverse judge in the state of Tennessee over a 10-year period when they did a study. And I say that Trump made some outstanding appointments to the courts in spite of what this propaganda machine that is mainstream media has been putting out. The opinions are consistent. They match the requirements of due process of law. They respect the First Amendment, Second Amendment, Fourth Amendment, Fifth Amendment, Sixth Amendment, and due process and the 14th Amendment. Now, the other thing is what you touched on is a problem that's inherent in what's going on with the criminal justice system. We lack a policy right now that deals with the obsolescence of the ordinary working person in the face of increasing industrial technology and computerization. So labor is a commodity like wheat, corn, or cotton when you deal with economics. And what happens is the same thing happens when you get a glut. Cut back production, store the surplus, subsidize the would-be producer. The surplus is put in a jail cell instead of a grain silo. The subsidies, the welfare check, cutting back a production is what's put out there so the kids don't get prepared and get the wrong worldview and become ineffective in functioning in a labor market. I know people say that they want to put people in jail to get free labor, but that's not what's going on, because what we're trying to do is just keep them out of mischief. Now, when it comes to abortion, that's part of this whole process. There are different forms of abortion. We deal with post-natal abortion, the drive-by, the overdose, the death penalty, death by suicide, suicide by cop, suicide by neighbor. What happens out in the streets and the hallways? And if you want to change that, you've got to do something about building the national character. And right now, the Democratic Party, in the hands of the people that run it, Kamala Harris, Imhoff, and Waltz right now is the flag carriers. They are about destroying character. They do not want those things about duty, honor, obligation, responsibility, accountability, of making where you live better, safer, more secure than otherwise, being about public peace, dignity, and order, being brave, courageous. They want no guilt, no shame, anything goes, and that's where the real problems lie.
All right, all right. Jabari, you spoke on this, right? Yes, yes, you spoke on the abortion. I want to go ahead. What you was gonna say?
I just want to say that the American Bar Association has evaluated legal folks that are put forth towards judgeships, and more judges that were put forward by Trump were deemed not qualified. This is not a leftist organization. Trump has made some made terrible picks for judgeships. They were not qualified. I can show you the graphs. I'm not going to go into that now. But I beg Judge Joe Brown to go do a little research.
All right, let me move on. First of all, Alexa, stop. First of all, let me say I am Alexa, stop.
If you say her name, she will keep talking. Just don't say her name.
Okay. Let me say that I am very impressed, right, with Judge Joe Brown's knowledge off the head. He is indeed, no, I'm not going to stop. He is indeed a historian, and he memorizes this off the head. And I'm talking about when it comes to the politics and the political stuff, he knows this stuff off the head. So shout out to Judge Joe Brown, and shouting out our brother Judge Joe Brown. Let's get to the reparations part. Do you think, Judge, that Donald Trump will be talking about reparations in this up and coming debate with Kamala Harris? I think they have a debate coming up, Jabari, on Wednesday. This Wednesday sometime?
The debate is on Tuesday.
Tuesday. Okay, Tuesday. What is his stance on reparations, Judge?
I think you may be hearing something positive about reparations from him. He may not use the word reparations, but it's the duck rule. If it quacks like, walks like, looks like, floats like, it's a duck. He may not call it that because that might be political taboo, but you're going to hear something about ramping up what goes on for Black folk, and I think that's good. He's got a long history of doing that, and I went back over all of the details, all the facts and figures, and there hasn't been much for HBUs, historical Black colleges and universities, since Lyndon Baines Johnson. As we got out of Trump, there have not been as many federal appointments. I disagree with what you're talking about with the American Bar Association, because there's a shift in their flavor these days. And what we have is somebody that is going to be in place that might deal with it. I'll give you, for instance, what Roberts wrote last year relative to affirmative action. He did not down it. He used the exact same language as we used in 1967 to set up the first affirmative action programs in the United States. We used that neutral language where there was no reverse discrimination, and we were smart enough to craft the language so it could be of use to achieve, in effect, affirmative action. And I think what's going to happen here with Trump is the way the language is crafted, we will get a form of reparations that we would not have otherwise gotten from the Democratic Party, except shams that have no chance of getting through, like what they did in California.
All right, Brother Jabari. Same question, but I want to take it to Kamala Harris. What is her view on reparations?
First of all, I want you to know, if you believe that Donald Trump is going to do anything that looks anything remotely like reparations, when he's told us it's not going to happen, I think that you have gotten high on your own supply, and maybe even someone else's supply as well, because there's no way that's going to happen. By the way, I'm amazed that Judge Joe Brown mentioned affirmative action, because let's be clear, the 3 justices that Donald Trump put on the Supreme Court killed affirmative action. And there have been studies recently that have clearly stated that Black enrollment in prestigious institutions has dropped precipitously. So I don't know how he could possibly, Trump did that. He's not doing anything for Black people. You need to recognize that. By the way, Barack Obama gave a lot of money, more money to HBCUs than Trump. And Biden gave more money to HBCUs than both of them put together at a factor of probably 5. So when people say that Donald Trump gave lots of money to HBCUs. They're just parroting a Republican talking point. They ought to look at the actual statistics, and they'll be very clear. I think Trump gave something like $300 million to HBCUs, and Biden has given something on the order of $16 billion.
Damn.
These numbers aren't even on the same graph. But if you are on the teat of the right side of our political discourse, you will fall for it. And all I have to say is Judge Joe Brown needs to wipe his mouth. There's a little milk on the side of your mouth there. I mean, this is ridiculous. I can't even imagine.
But if you're not a fool, you
would possibly argue that.
Trump, okay,
now, with regard to Kamala Harris, with regard
hold on, Judge. 72 billion.
Hold on, Judge. You're going to speak.
With regard to Kamala Harris, I want you to know that she says that she's in favor of reparations. But I really believe that if Black people are going to get reparations,
no more remarks either, Brother Jabari. None of that.
Stop. He called me a sissy. Stop. We basically have to get
you a sissy.
Yes, you did. Yes, you did.
No, I did.
We have to
don't use that language.
You need to get to the point. We need to get to the point. Y'all look at the tape. We need to get to the point where we are firmly in grasp of this policy, and we are forcing whoever is sitting in that seat, Democrat or Republican, to be in favor because they have no choice. And I don't think that Black people have gotten to that point yet. I have been fighting for reparations since the mid-1990s when I first joined in Cobra. And I think that we need to continue that fight and force them to actually do it. It's almost like Lyndon Baines Johnson said to Martin Luther King, he would actually sign a Civil Rights Act, but he said, you have to force me to do it. Because the reality is right now, anyone who puts forward reparations, their party and anyone that is associated with them will not be in office for a dozen years. So we need to make it so that anyone who is in office, Republican or Democrat, is forced to agree with and to put forward reparations. I have lots of ideas on how to do that. That's for another discussion.
All right. You can respond, Judge.
First time I got involved in
answered this already.
Talking about reparations was in 1968. Were you born then? Next problem we get into.
I was not.
My roommate actually, Attorney Ted Egan's at one point, he was actually working on that project officially with the UN at one point. You got anything on that? That was back in the early 70s. Reparations is nothing new. My father and mother went through it twice, and my grandfather, one of whom was born in 1850 and the other one in 1870. They went through the reparations twice. One grandfather even made application for the 40 acres and a mule back from 1865. So yeah, he wasn't but 15, but he was getting married. So I have a little familiarity with that. But if you ever heard of the Platinum Plan with Ice Cube, that's what reparations begins to look like. You don't have to call it. Do you see anything like that with Joe Biden, or do you see Kamala Harris and Biden both saying there will be nothing special for Black folk? Now, that's what they said, but Trump did do and push the Platinum Plan with Ice Cube, which was a start. So you can say that, and it was $72 billion, the way it would have worked out, not the minuscule amount you're talking about. So let's not talk about the lies that you're perpetrating and spreading. See, you're accusing one side of doing something, but you turn right around and do it yourself.
All right, Brother Jabari, you want to respond to that?
I want to be really clear that what Judge Joe Brown is doing is he's saying, I have sources, trust me, bro. That's his sources. Trust me, bro. He has shown nothing whatsoever to prove any of his points. Because his points can't be proven. They're false. That's the reality here. With regard to reparations, he had the nerve to mention Ice Cube's ridiculous Platinum Plan. By the way, if Donald Trump was in favor of it, why didn't he bring it into fruition during the time that he was in office for 4 years? This is called pandering. And unfortunately, some of us who are not able to be astute enough to recognize it are still spouting it. Donald Trump is not some new candidate. He actually was the president. If you really were in favor of the Platinum Plan, where did it go? By the way, that Platinum Plan was laughable. You should look at it on its merits and try to understand what it was. And I want to say to you that we should be very clear that a man who put people in place in order to destroy black people, most of us are not smart, only some of us are. A man that says that we come from countries that are S-hole countries, he's not giving you nothing. He's saying that white people have been treated very badly. He said that at many of his rallies. But folks like Judge Dobrowna can continue to pretend like Trump is going to say something on behalf of reparations because he hopes that black folks are going to follow him down that fallacious path and vote for Trump during our
right. We at the point now, Jabari. We are at the point now where you get to ask Judge your questions. Judge will ask you some questions, and then I will have you two close out. Jabari, is on you.
I would prefer him to go first. I'm allowing him to do that.
All right, Judge, you can ask Jabari any question that's on your mind pertaining to the presidential debate.
All right. Can you point to any one thing that your candidate has done while vice president that is going to contribute to the betterment of the country in terms of either its security, its position in the world, defense, economics, or what? And by the way, you might want to try to elaborate what experience she may have in any of those things: military matters, diplomatic matters, economic matters. Anything?
I want to be clear that the person who is running on the Democratic side is the vice president, and the vice president doesn't make policy.
I'm talking about her.
And so to ask that we are at the point where we should see her make policy and do things as a vice president is not something that would have actually happened. But as part of a team, we've actually seen the United States return to a place where our friends, our allies around the world are comfortable with working with the United States again. And they're very concerned about another period where Donald Trump may be in the Oval Office. That's the reality. And in a world that is extremely chaotic, we have to say that Donald Trump actually, not only did he make it more chaotic when he was in office, but he is not up to the task. He has no understanding of policy whatsoever. You ask him a question, he gives you some things that don't make any sense. If those of you don't know what I'm talking about, look at his answer this week on what he would do to improve childcare for people. I mean, his answer was an embarrassment to every citizen in the United States, regardless of whether you're on the right or the left. And so this is a major issue. I think that we have seen during the time that the Biden-Harris ticket has been in office, we've seen that they have been able to restore confidence in the United States amongst our allies. We've seen them strengthen NATO, which was extremely important. We've seen them also bring us out of a pandemic that Donald Trump bungled so much that 2 million Americans died. A higher per capita number of Americans died than any other country in the world because he mangled it, he bungled it. And so we should recognize that this team has brought us out of crisis. And I think that Kamala Harris has the intelligence and the integrity to do more. Is she a perfect candidate? No. But on the other side, we have someone who is completely immoral. We have someone who has no interest in policy. We have someone that is only talking about personal grievance and who he's going to attack and get revenge on. This is the kind of candidate we see on the other side. And I really do think that if Black people are duped into supporting Donald Trump, we will regret it once more.
Would you like to answer my question? I ask you, could you point to any single policy that she has been responsible for, that she put in place to help?
What I said.
No, you didn't.
Maybe you didn't hear my answer, but the first thing I said let me clarify. The first thing I said is a vice president does not make policy. If you are asking that question, you should ask the same thing of Mike Pence. What policy did he bring into fruition during the Trump years? You can't cite any. A vice president doesn't do that. A vice president moves forward with the president's agenda. And so I know that you know that. I think that you're trying to dupe the audience, but that's just basically how it works. You can't say that about Mike Pence. You can't say that about anyone who was the vice president on the Republican side either. That's just not what vice presidents do.
The question was prefaced with the understanding that the president who's in the Oval Office right now, or at least when he's not on the beach, is decrepit, senile, and suffering from advanced dementia, and who was in charge, by the way, running the country. So when you get put in charge of foreign policy and you're supposed to be the diplomat for the United States over in Europe, and you get known as Word Salad Annie because you can't come up with anything, don't listen to your staff's briefings, and you sound like a perfect demented ignoramus on stage laughing at everything, and you've been handed the foreign policy portfolio and you do nothing about it. I was trying to see if maybe you could tell us what she's done. And you don't like the platinum plan. You've already said you think it was bogus. Well, what if they come up with either one of them? And since somebody is obviously senile, who's supposed to be in charge? That's the opening. Go run with it.
If Donald Trump becomes the president, if Donald Trump becomes the president, he will be the oldest person ever sworn in to the office. We continually see him mess up phrases. We see him not know the difference between Hungary and Turkey. We see him routinely think that he's running. He thinks that the governor, the former governor of South Carolina, is Nancy Pelosi. He said, look at all we gave. Nikki Haley was in charge of the Capitol during the time of the insurrection. No, not even Nancy Pelosi was the person in charge, but he confused the two of them. This is a person who has been sliding. Donald Trump lost the zip in his fastball years ago, but you are trying to confuse us with that. The reality is Donald Trump's record doesn't match with Joe Biden's record. And we're seeing him even get worse. You can't say that Kamala Harris has a word salad. Where do you get that from? I want you to clearly listen to her speech at the Democratic National Convention and listen to Trump's speech at the Republican National Convention and put them together. By the way, he spoke for nearly 2 hours, and only the first 20 minutes of it was intelligible. He keeps talking about whether you're going to jump in the water and deal with electrocution or sharks. By the way, that's really what he did, folks, if you aren't listening. That's not hyperbole on Jabari's part. He keeps talking about how Hannibal Lecter is a wonderful man, how he actually it matches up against Scarface Al Capone. This man has actually not made sense for a long time. And so for you to try to pretend that he is an intelligent person that has grasp of policy, that has any inclination to work with people around the world, and compare him to this woman who has tons of experience and actually is 20 years younger is laughable. It's laughable. So that's where we are. And if that's what you believe, go ahead at it. But I hope that Black people don't get confused.
Wait a minute. She's not known for her word salad. That is
no, she's not. That's right-wing talking.
Word salad Kamala.
That's
so
right-wing
you denying
talking.
that she's got that reputation? You denying that what we hear when she says
people on your side of the aisle are actually the ones that are saying
denying that. That's what
Have you heard Donald Trump's speeches? Have you heard them?
Donald Trump doesn't have a teleprompter. He's going from what's in his head. This chick is.
He doesn't have a teleprompter.
You're trying
Do you want me to
tell
show
us
you the images
that
of
it is
Donald
a
Trump?
myth that this
Do you want me
woman
to
is
show
word
you him with the
salad and that she
teleprompters?
doesn't have that reputation?
Okay, let me show you an
Oh
image
my
of Donald
goodness.
Trump with
Brother,
the teleprompter.
where are you coming
By the
from?
way, it's very possible that when a sniper took a shot at him, that a piece of glass from his teleprompter is what pierced his ear. I don't know if you ever shot an AR-47.
I have a bunch of them, and I've been standing.
And you
I've
know that if
stood
it
next
hits
to people
someone's
when they
ear,
got shot.
if it
I
hits
got shot
someone's
twice
ear,
myself.
if
I
you
understand what it looks like.
actually,
So don't
if you,
give me
then you
this
should know,
leftist nonsense.
then you
You're
should
doing
know,
what you are
then
accusing the
you
other
should
side of.
know. sa.neter, you got to get some control.
Go
You
ahead,
have to.
Jabari. This is
He's just talking. He's just talking. He's just talking at this point. And the reality is that Donald Trump constantly uses teleprompters. He even said that he was not going to pay the folks for a teleprompter because they weren't working properly. I mean, what are you trying to say? Here he is. Wait a minute. I'm going to show you some screens because it seems like Judge Doe Brown is not aware of this. And maybe he isn't. sa.neter, if you could share. sa.neter, if you could share. Here he is using a teleprompter at APAC. Here he is using a teleprompter. Look at this. Donald Trump's begrudging use of teleprompters. This is not hard for you to figure out. Here goes his using teleprompters at North Dakota Bismarck. Can you see them here? Donald Trump uses teleprompters all the time.
In practically
So
anything.
he is trying to tell you. He is trying to tell you that he doesn't use teleprompters. And I don't know. The reality is he has teleprompters. I don't think he's reading accurately what is on the teleprompter because all he does is whine and complain. We have a billionaire who does nothing but complain. I mean, this is ridiculous. For you to try to say that he has that in his head, please.
If you want to go there, you still are in this position where you say she's not known as word salad. Why do you think the rest of the world calls her that? And
Judge
what do
Doe,
you think
the world doesn't call
at?
Let him finish, Jabari. Let him finish, Jabari.
He's saying the same thing again. You have to pay attention.
Say it again. If you want to say it again, let him say it again.
You have to say. Okay,
When are you going to deal with that? You're trying to deny that this woman is known for not known for being Miss Word Salad. That's what you said. You said that's not true. What?
Okay,
well,
let
then
me
what do
respond.
they call her? What
Let
do
me
they call her?
respond, and I
What
want
do they
you to
call her?
listen carefully. I want you to listen carefully. One of the tactics that you see from the right wing of our political discourse is they will create something that is erroneous. They'll repeat it and repeat it and repeat it, and then they'll say, people say that. They're the ones that are saying it. If you have ever looked at Kamala Harris give a speech, you will see that she is a powerful speaker. But if you look at Donald Trump give a speech, you will see that 20 minutes in, half of the audience, maybe a quarter of the audience just leaves. He rambles. He talks about things that don't make any sense whatsoever. He just straight up lies. He tells so many lies, it's almost impossible for him to be fact checked. I mean, let's be really clear that your side of the aisle is who is saying that she is the word salad lady. And then you're saying people say that. Yeah, you'll say it. That's who's saying it. That's who's saying it. You can't compare the intellectual capacity of Kamala Harris to Donald Trump. Not even in a moment could you do that. He routinely misspeaks words, doesn't know them. He thinks that the word oranges, like the fruit, is the same as origins, like the origin of something. I mean, this guy, he continually misspeaks. Continually. The man has confused raccoons in his head, and you're trying to make it sound like Kamala Harris, who was actually the district attorney of California, a prosecutor who actually is able to prosecute, to ask questions of people while she was in the Senate that had them all uncomfortable because of how articulate she was, how pointed her questions were. Now you wanted to make it sound like all she is telling word salads. Why don't you look at her speech at the Democratic National Convention and then tell me where the word salads were? And then I'll do the reverse. I'll show you the speech that Trump gave at the Republican National Convention, and I'll show you how half of it didn't make any sense. There's a new phrase that has been brought into our
You gotta let Judge go in.
Watching. No, he's asked several questions, sa.neter. How many questions does he get to ask?
You get to ask a question now. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, he asked a few questions.
Go ahead and ask the question, brother. I'm telling you now. You can ask some questions.
Okay, when you say you got to let Judge Brown go in, you mean I get to ask
Ask me a question, brother.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
Okay.
Question.
Okay. I want for you to articulate for me why you think that it is not disqualifying for Donald Trump. He just went out for a second. Are you still there, Judge Brown? Can you see him, or is it just me?
No, it's he went out. I think, damn, because his phone. He on his phone. Remember,
he probably got a call. Is what happened.
Yeah,
he'll come back in. He'll come back in.
Yeah.
When he comes back in, I'll ask him the question. sa.neter, if you don't put this up quickly, I'm gonna come back.
All right, we got the judge here.
Can you hear me?
Yes,
Yeah,
we can. We can. You probably had a phone call.
Can you hear?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yeah, we
Can you hear us?
All
Can
right,
you hear us?
Because he had a phone call.
Can you hear us?
No, he can't.
Testing, testing.
Yeah,
We can hear you.
Can you hear me?
We can hear you. Can you hear us?
I can't hear you. Okay, I can't hear anybody on your end.
Okay. Maybe it'll come
try
back
this
we
again.
can
See if I can get
we can hear you.
a little.
We can. Okay, he's coming back in.
Yeah, he's going out. Come back in. Man, Jabari, man, he getting under your skin, brother. He going in right now. Yo, we got the debate
sa.neter,
party set up.
sa.neter, you're going to have to stop.
Be cool. Be cool.
No. You're not going to tell me be cool. I know what you're doing.
Be cool. Be
I
cool.
know what you're doing, but stop doing it. Stop doing it. Okay? I know what you're doing. Stop it.
No, I know what I'm doing, brother.
Okay, stop doing
Here
it.
we go.
Okay,
No.
here we go. All right.
Yeah.
That's
Can you hear us, Judge?
I hear you now.
All right, brother Jabari, go ahead, brother.
Ask me the question.
I want to ask you what you think about Donald Trump's history of racism. I want to ask you whether you think that Black people should be concerned. I'm going to give you 3 instances. Black people should be concerned of his behavior with regard to the Central Park 5. Whether we should be concerned about what he said about countries like Haiti, and whether we should be concerned about what he said recently about Byron Donalds. Are you familiar with all 3 of the things I'm talking about?
Yes.
Oh, you said yes? That's my question. Should Black people be concerned about his racial tinged comments, racist comments, I would say, but I'll allow you to say racial tinged comments in those 3 areas? Are these things that we should be concerned about? He's out again. He's out again.
Let's see. There you go. Now, I hope
How many questions? Did you hear what I said?
Testing, testing. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Can you hear us? Can you hear us?
He's getting another phone call. He can't hear us. All right.
We're waiting for him to come back in. We're waiting for him to come back in. We'll see if he does come back in.
Yeah, he coming back. He coming back. Oh man.
Oh wait.
Did what he did to get free of Napoleon's generals and get his own freedom for his own people. That was great. Now, what's the other one? Do you think he's racist? Well, let's see. I remember he used to hang in the clubs in New York, and all of the homeboys used to go over there to talk with him, get drinks for him. He didn't walk in with security. Everybody loved him until he got into politics. And then all of a sudden he becomes Bobby Yaga, the boogeyman. Doesn't fit. And I remember he used to date this beautiful black woman who was a model right before he got with his current wife. And yeah, interesting enough. So no, I don't think we got a problem. And then people will get candid. I have white friends who will use the N word and they'll say, well, you guys always call yourselves that all the time. I didn't know it was a problem. Yeah, I'll bust you in your jaw if you say it again. Oh, well, if it's like that, I won't do it. Okay, so yeah, you get these things, but what do we say in private when nobody's listening to us? Everybody does that. So if somebody wants, well, when he was with us, he called somebody the N-word. Well, yeah, it happens. Call somebody the honky word or redneck or trailer park trash or cracker. Yeah, everybody said that. It's human nature. So that's got nothing to do with whether or not you're a capable executive who can manage things and make things happen and get people a little nervous about you coming around because you know what you're doing and you can do that man thing, which she can't. Miss Word Salad. And by the way, why do you think the rest of the world calls her word salad if there isn't some basis for it? That's made up. Oh,
could you show? Now you keep saying that, but you know I know that you're source free. Like you know how they used to have sugar free things in the 80s.
Come on,
you're
man.
source free. Could you show me why? What when you say the rest of the world? Hold on, it's my turn to speak now, Judge Joe.
Well, I was
if you are saying the world calls her source free, can you express to me where you got that from?
I hear her. What do you think I'm listening to?
You said the world calls her source free. Listen, sa.neter. This guy he's lost this zip on his fastball too. What is going on here?